Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head back to Spain once again, and we're going to go to the Catalunya region in the northeast of the country. Now, for this review, we are going to go to another brewery that I've never tried anything from before. These guys are quite a well-established and very well-respected name within the Spanish craft beer scene these days, and from what I understand, this brewery are very well known for their different kinds of New England hazy, whatever you call them, IPAs. This is a brewery that a lot of people have been telling me that I need to take a look at, so finally we're going to get that done. But the beer that we're going to have a look at from them today is one of their latest releases as of the time of filming, which is September 2025. It's a style that this brewery are supposed to be very good at, and it is at the higher end of the spectrum when it comes to this style category too. So needless to say, I'm very, very curious to see what this one's going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, like I said, we are going to go to Spain, the Catalunya region in the northeast to be precise, and we are going to go to the Girona area and a little bit to the north to a wee town called Cornellà de Terri, and that means that we're going to have a look at my first beer from SOMA Beer. So this particular beer is called Hopium or Hopium. I'm not sure of the intended pronunciation this one, but it comes in at 12% ABV, and this one is a New England hazy Imperial Quadruple, whatever you want to call it, IPA. So yeah, this should be really quite interesting. This beer is one that I picked up at a bar called Biropolis in Jerez de la Frontera in the south of Spain, and the owner was telling me there that this brewery is one that I really should check out, and this was his choice out of all the SOMA beers that he had in stock. So yeah, this one I think will be very good, because they did have some really damn good stuff in Biropolis actually. So yeah, definitely cool to do my first review from SOMA, and I've heard great things about this brewery. So let's crack on and see what this one is going to have in store for us. The Hopium, a 12% Quadruple New England Hazy Imperial, whatever you want to call it, IPA from SOMA Beer in Cornellà de Terri, to the north of Girona in Catalunya in the northeast of Spain. So, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my future reviews that hopefully I can do from SOMA Beer. Very first time I'm trying one of their beers, as I mentioned earlier on, but hopefully not the last. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Spanish playlist, along with a number of other things. That's being added to quite regular at the moment, because I'm working my way through the Spanish beers that I brought back with me to Hong Kong. And do make sure you check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days, even if I do say so myself. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about SOMA Beer for the first time then. So, SOMA Beer, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in the Girona area in Catalunya in the northeast of Spain, and the company was founded by Ramon Prats. So the official establishment of the company was in 2016, but Ramon says his journey with beer began back in about 2012, and at this time he was residing in Banyoles, which is a little bit to the north of Girona, and he discovered Belgian beers, and then a bit later on he discovered hoppy beer, and this really kind of sparked his interest in IPAs and exploring the wider craft beer movement. He actually comments in one of the articles about having a big burp after being at the bar and leaving this kind of hoppy, fruity aftertaste, and he was really curious about where that came from, and that apparently was a little bit of an epiphany for him. But Ramon describes himself as a homemade engineer, and he's always enjoyed creating things, from cooking to different building equipments and just things like this. But he apparently discovered a book on homebrewing at a local shop, which he considered to be a very significant investment at the time, and this book became his gateway to brewing and was highly focused on the West Coast IPAs. And he says that from his fourth batch onwards, he focused only on producing different kinds of IPAs, and the people that tried his beers seemed to really like them. So at one stage, some neighbours requested 100 litres of his beer for a party that ultimately got cancelled. So not really knowing what to do with this beer that was potentially going to go to waste, he took it to a beer bar in Girona, and it was very, very well received by the folk drinking there. So this positive reception led to a growing demand for his beers. They kind of spread by word of mouth, and they were initially branded as Ramon de Serenya after him and his hometown. So encouraged by his success, he decided to pursue brewing professionally, and with a bit of financial help from his parents and the donation of a 500 litre brew kit from a failed brewery from someone else in his town, he officially launched SOMA Beer in 2016. The word soma apparently is derived from the Greek word for body, and Ramon says that this is kind of to reflect his philosophy that beer is more than a drink. It's a form of kind of artistic expression, if you like. But the brewery now operates from a renovated facility in Cornellà de Terri, which is between Banyoles and Girona, and they've invested heavily in their brewing infrastructure over the last few years, but the production does still continue to be quite small. They don't have their own taproom at present, but they do have quite a big distribution network which helps get their beers to shops and bars all across Spain and further afield across Europe. But SOMA Beer really are committed, they say, to producing quality beer. They've invested a lot in the quality control side of things, and they do specialise in different kinds of IPA, from what I understand, mostly the New England hazy IPAs. But they're basically looking at these ones and making them taste like fruit juice, from what the websites and stuff say. But Ramon emphasises that each of these creations is kind of a unique concept and design, and he wants it to be reflective of his artistic expression. They apparently only have 2 core beers. This is the Combo and the Pyramid, and usually they focus on doing limited edition batches, and Ramon says that he often gets kind of bored, if you like, and always wants to create something new. So these guys only have 2 core beers that you'll find regularly. Everything else is pretty much a new creation. But as of September 2025, when we're filming this review for you, these guys have released 420 or so different beers according to Untappd, and like I said to you, the vast majority of these seem to be New England hazy, whatever you want to call them, IPAs. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about SOMA Beer for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Untappd page as well to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, that is your brewery history, and a big thank you to the lovely Miss Amanda for compiling those notes for me, because yeah, obviously native Spanish speaker, it's a little bit easier for her than it is for me for these breweries from the Spanish speaking countries. So yeah, there we are. As I say, let's go on and have a little look at the beer itself. So the SOMA cans for me are quite distinctive, because they've got these kind of they kind of remind me a little bit of some of the 1960s, 1970s sort of wallpapers and things like that you would see. That's yeah, quite like the sort of abstract shapes and things that they've got there. But yeah, you can see SOMA in the black and white at the bottom there. This is a 440 milliliter can, incidentally, plain silver top on it, and you can see on the side there, yeah, the Hopium Quadruple IPA, 12% ABV. So this one apparently is hopped with Motueka, Citra and Nelson Sauvin. All of these hops we know quite well. Citra is of course the only American one in this. 14% alpha acid. In a New England IPA, it's going to give you lots of lovely juicy mango, and it will show you a little bit of its lemon limey quality, I would say, as well. The 2 New Zealand hops in this one, of course, you've got Nelson Sauvin, the classic high alpha acid New Zealand hop, 16% alpha acid, that big white green grapey character, gooseberry you can describe it as well from that one, and then Motueka, about 8% alpha acid, and it's going to give you that lovely kind of juicy limey type note. This is a combination we've had a good few times before in a hazy IPA. But yeah, I mean, really nicely presented, this one. As I said, 440 milliliter can. I think we can get this guy out into the glass and see what it's all about. So yeah, the Hopium, 12% Quadruple New England hazy IPA from SOMA Beer in Cornellà de Terri in the Girona area of Catalunya in the northeast of Spain. Let's do this. There we go. This beer, I have to say, is one that I've been really looking forward to for quite a wee while actually. So yeah, I think we've got maybe about 75% of the beer out and into the glass at this point, but this should definitely be enough for us to have a wee look at. So yeah, before the head disappears on this one, you can see that the beer's poured with about a half finger of a frothy, I would say perfect white head there. You can see medium-sized bubbles on the surface of the liquid, then it gets a little bit soapier the further up that we go, but yeah, you can see some kind of wispy character, some wispy bits just sitting on the surface of the liquid there, but yeah, that's going to fade away to be a thinner, just more kind of foamy layer. But yeah, you've got that nice ring just sitting there around the edge of the glass. But yeah, this one looks great. So I think to you guys on the camera, it's appearing like quite a rich, kind of rich sort of tropical fruit juice colour, but to the naked eye, it's actually like quite a pale pineapple, mango juice colour, this one, in all honesty. So yeah, it's a little bit paler to the naked eye than it is for you guys on the camera, I would think. So yeah, remember the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. But you don't often have to care about that when it comes to the IPA style category. So yeah, I think this one for me looks very nice. As I say, like a sort of pale pineapple mango sort of juice colour. It looks absolutely great, this one. But yeah, in terms of the colour, it's nothing really surprising when it comes to, when you think about what style of beer this one is. But yeah, in terms of the level of haziness then, if we shine the light through this, it's a lovely sort of, yeah, it's a lovely sort of, I wouldn't say it's the soupiest and gloopiest that I've come across within the quadruple IPA category, and I've only had a few in fairness, but it is getting towards there. It's kind of what you would expect of such a high ABV hazy IPA, in all honesty. So remember, the level of haze in these beers depends on oak content, wheat content, and to a degree what yeast you use, and that can vary from brewery to brewery, beer to beer, and so on. But yeah, this one is pretty damn hazy, and it's kind of what you'd expect. Not much in the way of visible carbonation with this one, but you can see the bubbles just kind of breaking the surface there, and yeah, it looks pretty damn nice, I have to say. But like I said, nothing really surprising about this beer when you consider what style it is when we're thinking about appearance. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that and just go on and have a little look at the aroma for this one then. Appearance wise, it looks absolutely great. So let's have a move on to our aroma section of the video then. So, oh right, okay, I'm going to say straight away, this one has a little bit of zip to it. So my first impression is that this one is going to be a little bit wheaty leaning, but it's got a wee bit of everything, to be honest with you. You've got the nice big green component that you want, lovely big kind of juicy fruity characters, a little touch of sweetness, but yeah, smells pretty nice, I have to say. So yeah, when it comes to hazy IPAs, for me, when we're talking about the malty and yeasty side of things, there's sort of 6 elements to think about. So you've got the kind of farmhousey yeasty character, you've got the kind of rye leaning grainy side of things as well. Those 2 elements are a little bit more common in New England brewed New England IPAs, because the style started off as the farmhouse IPA, but then you've got wheaty bitiness, oaty creaminess, barley malt bread, and also the sweeter side of things. And those 4 latter elements, if you like, is where the style really focuses these days. As the style moved away from New England and was brewed in other places, that's the direction that it really went in. For me, the aromas tell me that this one will have quite a little bit of wheaty character to it, but you're also getting a fair amount of sweetness out of this one, but not overly much, and also quite a lot of oaty character as well. So yeah, the way that all of that kind of comes across in this one, I think, is very, very nice. So yeah, let's just break that down and describe the aroma for you a wee bit more in depth. So yeah, the backbone of this beer, as you very often get, is that lovely fresh white bready bread crust. So lovely little bit of fresh white bready bread crust in there. There's some woody sort of characters in there, Jacob's cream cracker as well. Yeah, all of these elements, but the majority of the backbone in this one is, of course, that big, fluffy, white bready character. Yeah, big, fluffy, fresh, white bready notes coming out of this one. Pardon me. In the back of the nose, you do get a little bit more of a kind of zippy, wheaty character coming out of the beer. So yeah, there's that little bit of wheaty zip. There's a good little bit of oatiness in this one as well. So the oats in New England IPAs are very often a decent indicator of how fresh your beer is. So essentially, the creamier the oats smell and taste, the fresher the beer is, the drier they are, the older it is. It's a very, very rough measure, but it does tend to hold up in my opinion, especially when it's European New England IPAs, because the European oats are particularly creamy in my opinion. In America, in North America, sorry I should say, their oats are a little bit more sort of porridgey. But yeah, you can get a good little bit of a kind of creamy oaty character out of this one. There's some lovely, there's some lovely sort of Werther's Original butter candy butterscotchy notes to the beer as well. A little bit of McVitie's digestive biscuit, but again, the sweeter side of this one isn't too prominent, although the more that you smell of this beer, the more that starts to come out of it. So yeah, Werther's Original butter candy butterscotch, a little bit of McVitie's digestive biscuit, as I say. But yeah, I think that covers the kind of malty backbone of this beer. The other thing I would say about this is that I'm getting a little bit of like Skittles out of this one, which it's one of the yeasts that gives you that. I've never actually managed to discover exactly what yeast it is, if it's one of the Lalamans or something, but yeah, there is a little bit of a kind of Skittlesy type note evolving out of the malt base. Or is that the right word? Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of a Skittlesy note in the kind of top of the nose with this one. Now the yeasty side of the beer at the back of the nose, for me, it comes across mostly as, there's a little bit of like a brown bready, a wholemeal brown bready character to it, but mostly it's like quite a smooth white bread with a wee bit of a kind of crackery sort of quality. So yeah, a little bit of kind of, yeah, mix of white bread and brown bread in there with just a little bit of a kind of crackery sort of vibe to it. So yeah, the way that all of that pieces together in this one, I think is really quite nice. The malty yeasty side of this beer is pretty damn good. So yeah, let's focus on the hoppy side of things then. So as I've mentioned in many an IPA review before, when it comes to hopping an IPA, there's three sort of methods. So you have the early addition hopping, which takes place within the first hour or so of the wort boil. That gives you the vast majority of your bitterness, and it gives you a deeper, danker green component. You've got late addition hopping, which takes place within the last half hour or so of your wort boil, gives you a little bit of bitterness, mainly flavour and aroma, and a very bright green component. Then you've got dry hopping, which takes place after the wort boil is complete. It's all about flavour and aroma, and again, it gives you a very bright green component. So West Coast IPAs tend to use all three, which is why they're deeper, danker, more oily and bitter, whereas New England IPAs tend to rely on late addition and dry hopping, which is why they're kind of softer and more juicy, if you like. So yeah, quite obviously it's late addition and dry hopping that's gone into this one. You can smell that from the brightness of the green component, although the green component in fairness does have a little bit of an oily character to it, so there might be a little bit of kind of cryo or something in here. But yeah, your green component, there's a little tiny touch of earthiness to it, but mostly it's nice and bright and floral. There's a good little bit of grassy character coming out of this one too, but yeah, the way that goes together, I think, is very nice. Lovely, bright, floral, amethyst-y, zesty, kind of grassy character. I think the grassiness in this one is mostly going to come from the Motueka. But yeah, the green component in this one is kind of what you'd expect if you know these hops. On the fruity side of things then, it's actually quite nicely balanced, I have to say. The citrus definitely there, you get that lovely juicy mango. I'm getting a kind of softer passion fruit and a wee bit of like apricot-y character as well, but I would say that the tropical fruit takes a little bit of a back seat to the it takes a little bit of a back seat to the Nelson Sauvignon and the Motueka in this one, because with the Nelson Sauvignon you're getting that big oily white green grapey gooseberry sort of thing, very, very distinctive of course. And yeah, there's that sort of, how do you say, yeah, there's that sort of, how would we say, juicy kind of more zesty, limey character mixing in with that as well. But mostly, I think it's the oily side of the Nelson Sauvin that's coming out. And when you sugar it up, of course, you get more of that oily Nelson Sauvin, but you do get a little bit of the kind of sharper, more citrusy notes from the. Yeah, you do get a little bit of a sharper, more citrusy kind of character from the. How would you say, from the Motueka as well, but it's great. I really like that. So big thumbs up to Soma for this one. Yeah, aroma wise, it smells really pretty damn good actually. So as I always say, take a little bit of time to enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But yeah, I think it is about time for us to taste this one and see what it's all about. I don't think I left very much in there. But yeah, this one is the Hopium. Hopium, as I say, not sure of the intended pronunciation here. A 12% New England Hazy Imperial Quadruple, whatever you want to call it, IPA, 12% ABV, an absolute monster from SOMA Beer in the Girona area in Catalunya in the northeast of Spain. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skål, cheers, salut. Oh yeah. Now, this thing is a monster, but if all of the beers that they do follow the same kind of principles that this one does, this brewery is pretty special in terms of this kind of New England hazy category. These guys really know what they're doing, and I've heard good things about this brewery. The Beeropolis bar in Hereth, I mean, he must have had about 7 or 8 of the different Soma beers, and I asked him to pick me his favourite because I wanted to cover the brewery. This is the one he chose, and oddly enough, yeah, it was the strongest one. But there was triples and doubles and things like that, and I think they had a couple of just regular IPAs and paleos and things. But yeah, this is the one that he said, you know, go for this. And yeah, it certainly hasn't disappointed. So yeah, very, very happy with this one. So it gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, it gives you everything you want. It is actually quite an oaty leaning New England IPA when you drink it, but you do get a little bit of wheat into the aftertaste. It's certainly, that's one of the differences with this one, where the aroma and flavour kind of diverge from each other. It smells like it's going to be a little bit more wheaty, but yeah, I'd say this one does go more toward that big sort of oaty characteristic. So yeah, the way that this one goes together, I think, is really pretty damn nice. So it's a big, big thumbs up from me. But it covers its alcohol very well, and it does still feel really quite drinkable as well. It always amazes me how some of these New Englands can cover their alcohol, because when I first really encountered these ones back in the day, if you went above 8%, it was very difficult to cover the booze without adding a little bit of you know, caramel, one of the more kind of brown sugary malts actually. But this one doesn't really have too much in the way of sweetness, but it works, it really does. So yeah, quite an oily, oaty and creamy leaning New England IPA, this one. So let's just break the flavour of this down then and describe it for you more in depth. We'll go to the middle third of the palate, as we always do. So the backbone of this beer, you've got that lovely fresh white bready bread crust in there, so you can feel that. As you move further forward, it's got a little bit more of it's got a little bit more of a kind of woody sort of character, I would say. So yeah, lovely fresh white bready bread crust, a little bit of woodiness in there, and then on top of that there's a wee smattering of kind of Jacob's cream cracker. But yeah, but on top of that there's maybe a very, very slight you maybe get a very slight layer of like wholemeal brown bready character sitting on top of that. Then there's a more fluffy, fresh white bready kind of character in there, and then that kind of lingers into the aftertaste. You do get a little bit of a you do get a little bit of slight dryness out of this beer the further into the aftertaste that you go. And then on top of that, you start, you've got the fluffier white bread. Then the next layer up, it is a more dense, wheaty white bread. So certainly, as I've always said, further forward on the palate you get, or how do you say, sweeter flavours come out further forward on the palate, more dry and bitter flavours come out further back. So with the wheaty component of this beer, you can feel that it's really smooth further forward, but it's a little bit more zippy and bitey almost the further back that you go. So within that wheaty white bready layer, you can, pardon me, feel that it's a little bit smoother, and then further back you get a little bit more of a kind of a little bit more bitiness out of it. But yeah, the next layer up is all about the oats. So yeah, the kind of wheaty layer, as you go down the kind of middle line of your palate there, you can feel that nice thick creamy oaty character, and as you move further out toward the edges of the palate, it's just got a little bit more of a yeah, it has just got that little bit of a more dryness to it. But again, it's actually very, very smooth. This beer is very, very fresh actually, as of the time of filming. I think it's maybe about 7 or 8 weeks old, which is pretty good actually. So yeah, the oaty layer's in there. Then in the dead centre of your palate, you can feel a little circle there, which is, yeah, it's mostly like a kind of Werther's Original butter candy butterscotch, and the edge of it is surrounded by a more kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity type quality. So the way that that goes together in this one, I think, is really, really nice as well. So yeah, Werther's Original butter candy butterscotch, then a wee bit of a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity type quality as well. Yeah, as I say, I quite like how that goes together. But yeah, further back from that, on the middle third of your palate, you just get a wee bit of that kind of Skittlesy type character that I was talking about earlier. But I think at this point we've covered the middle third of the palate. So let's go to the back third of your palate then. And as I've often said, the middle third and back third of your palate are going to show you very similar flavours, but just at different intensities. So yeah, the border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get that nice little bit of kind of bready build up, and then you've got a wee bit of the wholemeal brown bread in the base, the fluffy white barley malt bread in the middle, then the more dense wheaty kind of character on top. The base of that back third of your palate, yeah, you've got the fresh white bready bread crust in there, you've got the Jacob's cream cracker, the wholemeal brown bready stuff just kind of sitting on top of that. It's a bit of a, yeah, you can feel that layer is a little bit taller, a bit lighter, more airy and more dry than in comparison with the middle third of your palate. Above that you get the fluffier white bready sort of character coming out of it as well, which you can feel again a little bit lighter, taller, drier and more airy. Then sitting on top of that you've got the more sort of wheaty, bitey kind of character as well, that more dense wheaty white bready note, and above everything else you've got the yeasty side of the beer coming out. So let's focus on that yeasty side of things. So yeah, the yeasty component of this beer, for me, the yeasty side of this beer, for me, at its core, it's got a slightly more dense kind of wholemeal brown bready character to it. It doesn't feel overly dry, but then yeah, as you move out from that, it's got a little bit of a more kind of grainy note to it, a fluffier white bready, like a slightly more fluffy, dense white bready character to it. Then there's a wee bit of a, more, a kind of bread crusty character on the very edge, and there's a wee touch of sweetness to it as well. So yeah, brown bread at the core, a little bit of a drier brown bread surround that, a more dense white bready note, and a wee bit of a kind of white bready bread crust as well. So yeah, the way that that goes together in this one I think is really nice. So that yeasty character sits there, and it gives you a little bit of graininess into the aftertaste. So yeah, the way that this beer goes together in that sense, the yeasty character does come a bit more into the aftertaste, but it's got a good balance of you know, your wheat, oat and your barley in this, but I think yeah, it's more oaty than anything else. But a wee bit of wheat and a wee bit of barley, they come out more into the aftertaste. And definitely, yeah, back third of your palate, you can feel the flavour is taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your palate, it just kind of compresses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah, the way that this one goes together, I think, is really very, very nice. Yeah, I think we can leave it at that for the malty and yeasty side of things. Let's go to the hoppy part of the beer. So back corners of the palate, you've got a teeny little bit of earthiness in there. As you move further forward, there's a little hint of pine resin in behind that. That comes out more into the aftertaste. But yeah, as you move further forward from that, it's a little bit more floral and aromatic, and it feels a little bit oily. So again, I'm thinking there's a wee bit of cryo oil or something like that in here. But round the front curve of your tongue, it's a little bit lighter and more grassy. Wee touch of zestiness there, but again, it's quite an oily green component that comes out of this one. But yeah, let's have a little look at the front third of your palate and the fruity side of things then. So yeah, border region between front third and middle third of your palate. Again, you get that little bit of bready build up in there. There's a wee bit of wholemeal brown bread in the middle, a more dense, the more fluffy white bready barley malty character in there, then the more dense wheaty white bready notes on top of that. But yeah, the base of that, front third of your palate is the white bready bread crust, the Jacob's cream cracker, the wholemeal brown bread, the white bread, then yeah, a bit of the more kind of wheaty and oaty sort of thing. Then above that, you've got that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. So let's have a wee look at those fruity esters then and see what we're getting. So yeah, on the fruity side of things with this beer, for me, it's kind of what you'd expect again if you know the hops. So if you go to the back half of that oily bubble, if you like, you can feel the juicy mango kind of sitting on top. Then underneath that you get the softer kind of passion fruit, and as you reach the middle of that front third of your palate, it's all about the kind of softer apricot-y notes. And then when you go into the front half of it, it's a little bit more about the Nelson Sauvignon underneath that kind of soft white green grapey gooseberry sort of note. Then yeah, on top of that you've got a little bit of juicy lime, and it's a wee bit zesty just behind the kind of front tip of your tongue where the grassy esters start to come into play. But I think it's for me it's the Nelson Sauvignon and the Citra that are really kind of coming out most in this one. But the Motueka does show its head a little bit later on. As I say, you get a little touch of that more zesty kind of grassy note coming out of the beer. So the way that all pieces together, I think, is really nice in this one. It's certainly an interesting beer, we can safely say that. But yeah, it's pretty awesome, I have to say. Yeah, very juicy, very soft and kind of creamy, but slightly oily and slick New England IPA at the same time. So yeah, I really like this one. I love it. It's awesome. Yeah, I think we can leave it at that for the flavour of this one. This is really impressed with this actually, and this brewery is one that I need to explore a wee bit more. So I recommend, if you like a New England hazy, do have a look at this brewery for sure. But yeah, let's round off the review then with a wee quick look at the mouthfeel. For me, this beer, I would say that it's kind of bottom end of full bodied. The carbonation is very, very smooth in this one. Like I say, this beer does have a little bit of a kind of creamy quality to it, but there's also a fair little bit of a kind of oily slickness to it at the same time. So yeah, lovely little bit of oily slickness, good little bit of creaminess, like I say. I think it goes together really nice. Lovely smooth carbonation as well. Bottom end of full bodied, I think that's fair. In terms of the IBU count with this one, I don't really find this one all that bitter. I think it's maybe about 30 or 40 IBUs, to be honest with you. So it's got that lovely sort of oily, it's got that lovely kind of oily green component to it, which I think suits it, and it's very, very smooth, as I say. But then yeah, the malty backbone of the beer, it's slightly drier underneath, smooth in the middle, and a little bit creamier and slightly sweet on top. And then yeah, you've got that lovely big oily fruited character of this one. A bit softer and tropical, but then also a wee bit more oily in the back end and a little bit of citrus coming out of it. But all in all, a lovely, lovely beer, this one. It is a bit of a beast as well, so this is one that you definitely want to share, which is exactly what I'm going to do just after filming this. But yeah, very, very impressed with this, I have to say. So absolutely worth trying. I look forward to trying a few more from this brewery, but it seems to be that this brewery is one of the Spanish ones you should keep an eye on, because very good quality stuff just based on this beer. But yeah, I've heard very good things outside of this too. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one. This was the Hopium, as I say, not sure of the intended pronunciation with this one. 12% New England Hazy, Imperial Quadruple, whatever you want to call it, IPA, Citra, Nelson Sauvin and Motueka in this one, from SOMA Beer in the Girona area in Catalunya in the northeast of Spain. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from SOMA Beer as well, and we will see about returning to these guys at some point in the fairly near future, because I've really enjoyed this one. So check out my social media, check out SOMA Beer's social media, and I will catch you guys in another review very, very soon. Slàinte, skål, cheers, and salut.